Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1389B, and today's date is September 29th, 2017, and the title of the episode is the Cabal planning a global takedown of the financial system? Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, something strange is really happening in Cuba. We see that there was this sonic blast, and it really can't be explained. The Cuban government saying that we have nothing to do with this. Actually, the U.S. government is saying they don't believe it was actually Cuba. And I'm wondering if they're just using this as a type of cover of why they're withdrawing personnel from the embassy there. And it looks like the senior U.S. officials have told the Associated Press that the U.S. is pulling roughly 60% of its staff out of Cuba and warning American travelers not to visit due to specific attacks that have harmed U.S. diplomats. And at this point, nobody really is saying what this really is. They're saying that the emergency personnel will remain in this area. And the Cuban government, even the U.S. government, they don't believe that Cuba did this because this is kind of strange. Why would they go ahead and use a sonic device on the embassy? It doesn't make sense whatsoever. It is kind of an act of war if they did do this because they actually attacked the people there. And this something else seems like something has gone wrong. Now, maybe something happened with the U.S. where they were experimenting with something and something went awry and they don't want to be found out and they're just pointing the finger someplace else. But we can see right now that people are leaving this area. Now, we know the Catalonian referendum, this is coming up on October 1st. This is Sunday when it's going to happen. The Spanish government, they're very angry about this. They're going to try to stop it. They don't want this to happen. They're sending the police out there. And there are going to be very big crowds on Sunday. They're getting ready to vote on their independence. And we can see right now that they're not going to be giving up. The Catalonian government is saying, yes, we are moving forward with this. They have their ballot boxes. They're made of gray and black opaque plastic. And they're getting ready to hold this vote. Now, there might be riots at this point in time. We'll have to see what the Spanish government does. And we can see that Wall Street and the rest of the nations, they're very nervous about this. They don't want this to happen. And we're starting to see this happen as the Brexit has happened. And of course, they're still struggling with this. We see Catalonia, where they're looking to separate themselves. And maybe they will join the EU. Maybe they won't join it. We don't know at this point. But we can see that this is all being done. And there's going to be a lot more countries that are looking to do this, where they're saying, okay, we don't want to be part of the EU, we don't want to be part of this country anymore, and we want our independence. And we can see that it was happening in the UK with Scotland, and out in Syria, well, this is the United States actually pushing the Kurds at this point, and this is not a grassroots type of uprising. This is a little different out in Syria, and of course, the Cabal is going to try to use what Catalonia is doing to what is happening out in Iraq and Syria. The difference is the United States, the Cabal, they set that up. They pushed it, just like the Arab, Spring, the uprising in Syria. That was all orchestrated by the Cabal, by the deep state at the time to make it look like, yes, they want Assad out of power. But if you really look at it, the people there, they're for Assad. Assad brought in the Russian government to help remove the paid mercenaries, which were brought in by the United States, by the coalition forces, and he cleared the country of terrorism. And the people, if they had a vote today, guess what? They're going to vote for Assad. We see something strange going on in North Korea right now. South Korean President Moon Jae-in has called for the long-delayed transfer of its wartime operational control from the Pentagon. And what they're saying is they want to transfer the wartime operational control, and they think this is the time to do it. Now, it was taken away back in 1950 when General Douglas MacArthur took charge of the South Korean Army. In 1994, a U.S. general served as its commander. Since then, Seoul has taken back peacetime control of its armed forces, but it delegated command to the U.S. Now they want control over everything. They want the U.S. to step back. They want to take control of everything. And I think at this point, Moon Jae-in wants the control because they don't want the U.S., the Pentagon, the Cabal to do something with North Korea and get things out of control. I think they want control of the armed forces. I think they want control of their country. This way he can calm the situation down. Moon Jae-in, he wants peace in this area. He does not want war. He wants to talk to North Korea. And of course, the Cabal completely against this. We see that Turkey, they have made their payment for the S-400 air defense system. They've received the payment, but right now Russia is saying that they don't have any dates of when they're going to supply this, but most likely it's going to be in the next couple of months. We see the Iraqi government, they have implemented a no-fly zone over the Iraqi Kurdistan area. In particular, the Iraqi government no-fly zone covers the 3 KRG-controlled provinces, and they don't want planes flying over right now because they know what is going on here. They understand that the Cabal is controlling the Kurds in this area. They know that they're trying to push chaos in this area. Why? Because they want to split these countries up. This has been planned since the beginning. The Brookings Institute, they've made these plans. They wanted to separate the countries into the Kurds, into the Sunni, into the Shia, into the Alawite, and separate the entire area. That was their plan all along. And this is why the United States, the Cabal, was going into all these countries having regime change, and the last part of it was to break them all apart. And they're still trying to do the last part of their plan, but I don't think it's going to work. I think Russia, Syria, Iraq, the governments are completely against this. They know exactly what the Cabal is trying to do, and I think they're going to try to stop this any way they possibly can. And all they have to do is continually beat the paid mercenaries, push them out, and Russia's already calling for the United States to leave this area. We also see the largest stronghold of the Islamic State forces in central Syria. Well, that has just been secured by the Syrian Arab Army. This is the Assad army. And we see right now that the paid mercenaries, they are doomed at this point. We see the leader of the so-called Islamic State, Baghdadi, who is completely fictional, has released a 46-minute long message talking about, how they're going to come after the Western nations. I mean, this is their last-ditch effort to try to scare the people of Europe, the people of America. And we know that these paid mercenaries, the Islamic State, it's run by our own governments. I mean, our black op type of intelligence agencies are running all of this. And again, they're behind all of this. And this is their last-ditch effort to try to scare everyone. Is it going to work? Well, they might push some events in different areas to try to get their message out that they're still here and they're still going to try to do whatever they possibly can. But I think time is ticking down and they're losing their grip. And this is the point where we should all be a little bit worried, because when they can't do anything else and time is ticking down and they have no other options left, they're going to try to do something. Now, very interestingly, we saw airport systems, they crashed globally, and people couldn't get to their flights, and they're saying it was a glitch, just like it was a glitch when the eastern seaboard, the power went down. I think this is all done on purpose. They're checking to see what they can do. And back in 2003, when we had the power outage on the eastern seaboard, I was in Manhattan at the time, and the power, just completely failed. And what I saw there was that people in the beginning were very, very friendly, and restaurants and bars, they were giving away food very, very cheaply because there was no power. And what I saw was a lot of these buildings, a lot of these corporations, they had generators on top of their office buildings or in the basements, but they only had enough fuel to last 2 or 3 hours. And the problem is that trucks couldn't get in there to refill the generators. So power only lasted for about 2 to 3 hours, and then boom, it was done. And a lot of the Manhattan was completely without power. Even as the generators went down, there was just nothing. And of course, the rest of the people who weren't prepared for this at all just had no power whatsoever. And everyone didn't know what to do at the point. Even the cell towers, they were barely operating, and calls, you couldn't get calls in and out or anything like that. The lines were very congested. And at the time, I was in an office where I worked in the technology office, and we had a lot of these battery power backups that we used for computer systems, and we used them to power our devices and things like that. But you can see that there's a lot of corporations, a lot of businesses that are not prepared for this. Now, this glitch that we're seeing, we need to understand what is happening here. Because if something like this can be brought down, the power grid can be brought down. We have a lot of warnings out there telling us that it's, open and vulnerable to any type of malware attack. The reason why they've been building this up for a very long time, telling us that North Korea could attack us, Russia could attack us, China could attack us, is because they've been preparing for this for quite a while. I believe the malware is already set into these systems. This is why they have these tests every single year. They're practicing. They want to make sure they know exactly what to expect. And this is what they do in any type of false flag. Think about the false flags that we see, the physical false flags that we see. They run through these tests of, having the bomber come in, having a shootout in a mall, and they run through these tests over and over and over, and then they have the last test, and then all of a sudden they have the false flag. The same thing's going to happen with the cyber attack. This is a little bit more complex. They need to show that, yes, they're being attacked, and they really don't have to hurt the systems. They just have to make it look like they're being, attacked, or shut certain things down to make people believe this, because the corporate media can blow this completely out of proportion and make everyone believe it's a lot worse than it really is, and they can close the banking system with no problem. And this would be the start of the system coming down. And we might actually see the cabal become so desperate, the central bank becomes so desperate, because if they cannot start that war to cover up this economic this collapse, they're going to need something, because they just can't say, well, the economy just fell apart. Yes, it crashed. We told you a lie for the last 8 or 9 years, because you know what happens when a collapse happens. The truth starts to come out. You start to realize what's really going on. You start to realize that all these companies, well, they're completely bankrupt. The financial institutions, they're completely insolvent. And the Fed, they have no answer for any of this. So they need something to distract everyone. And this is exactly what they're going to try to do. And this is what they've been building up for. This is why Janet Napolitano, when she was leaving DHS, it's not if, but when we have some type of cyber attack. And I do believe that this is still being planned behind the scenes. This is going to be their last event if they can't get the war started. Even if they do get the war started, they're going to implement this also. They're going to have some type of cyber attack with the war. But if they can't get the physical part of the war started, I think they're going to try to push this type of an event, because you really don't have to prove that much. I mean, they can have the corporate media out there repeating it over and over and over that the institutions are being attacked. The institutions can say, yes, we are being attacked, and this could be coming from DHS. It could be coming from the CIA. But again, they can bounce it off many servers to make it look like it's coming from different areas. And they can make the financial institutions believe that, yes, this is coming from the outside, shut everything down. It's that easy to do. And by having malware planted within the system, all they have to do is basically have that turn on and let it do its job. And they can have it maybe siphon off some of the funds, or make it look like funds aren't really there. And the financial institutions would then report that they're having major problems. And this is why we've been always saying, keep only what you need in the banking system to pay your bills. That's my opinion. Keep a lot of it in gold and silver. I mean, if you're going to keep cash, don't tell anyone where it is. But we can see that this is eventually going to happen. Remember, there are bail-in documents. They've created them. They create them for a reason. They don't just create them out of thin air. They need them later on. That's why they create them and they test them. They tested it in Cyprus. They tried it in Greece. They did it in India. And they continually test what they're going to do to make sure that everything is done properly. And we can see right now that they create these things because they realize that the governments are not going to bail out anything. They're going to have to go into the banking system, and they're going to have to shut the banking system down and keep it shut down for a prolonged period of time. And when this does happen, this will be the beginning of the system coming down. Now, it might be a few couple of banks in the beginning where it comes out in the corporate media saying, oh, these little mom and pop banks were hit. It's not a big deal, but they're looking into it. And then they can say it's growing a little bit more and a little bit more. And before you know it, it's the entire financial system. And remember, the stock market, the BAT system, the NASDAQ, they all have kill switches. They were created a couple of years ago because they can stop the market from coming down. When it gets out of hand and the free money, the plunge protection team can't handle it anymore, they just throw the switch and say, okay, the markets are now closed. So we can see that the Cabal, this is going to be their last-ditch effort, and I believe that we are getting very, very close to this situation. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.